No, but I'm saying you have my kids. No, but I'm saying she have my kids. I'm not finna be in the middle of her and nobody. Like,
when Scrappy, and basically, you was talking about me to her. You blocked her after me and you started back being cool. So she want to know why you blocked her.
I seen how y'all going. I was like, I'm not even a part of it.
But you know what, Scrap? I will tell you this. You're wrong because you was flirting with her for a very long time.
You said I was flirting with her?
Why was that wrong?
Show it.
Don't flirt with the eye. Don't flirt with the friends. Don't flirt with the people in the circle.
I just want everybody to know. I don't give a who Scrap flirts with, okay? He's free to flirt with whoever the he want to flirt with.
Once again, I never had a thing with Amy. Ain't nothing happened. A couple of likes, a couple of DMs, like talking about nothing is okay for a single man.
You know what?
Okay, now that's the word. Texting, flirting like that, kicking it. Talking, we're not. Dating, when we were in the studio, you said that you one was kicking it, okay. Now that's the word. Texting, flirting like that's kicking it. Talking, we're not dating, but I told you, I said, I don't like getting involved with drama with my baby. Mama like talk about Erica, that's talking about you don't refer to me as your baby. Mama don't do that with you. Don't refer to me as my kids. No, I'm saying she had my kids. I'm not going to be in the middle of her and nobody like when SCY and basically you was talking about me to her, you block her after me and you start back being cool. So she want to know why you blocked her. ISE. How y'all when I was like, I'm not even part, but you know what, Scrap, I will tell you this, you wrong because you was flirting with her for a very long time. You said I was flirting with her. I say with the, I just want everybody to know I don't give a who Scrap flirts with, okay? He free to flirt with whoever the he want to flirt with. Once again, I never had a thing with Amy. Ain't nothing happened. A couple of likes, a couple of DMs, like talking about nothing is okay for a single man. You know what, I'ma say this. A double-minded man is an unstable preacher, and the fact that he's trying to downplay some bull. It okay, I'm getting secondhand embarrassing from Amy. This is like the third man who's publicly denied being in any type of relationship with her, and I'm just like, girl, you could just stay on the load because clearly these guys, they don't want to go public with you. So wait, hear the thing. So you win interested in him and he wasn't interested. Is that what you think? I don't know. I was interested. I never dated Amy. We've never dated y'all. Hanging out on a date is not dating. Guys, how now, Amy? You're saying you never dated Scrappy when you've been saying you dated Scrappy. Scrappy got the muscles. He big, he fine, he I'm single. He's single, just saying we've been talking on the phone. He's single, I'm single. You're not Scrappy, or you know I'm not, but we've been on a couple date. Oh, for real, so it's for real. Bambi sat on the edge of her bed, her foam clutched tightly in her hand. The screen was lit up with Amy Luciani's latest Instagram post. The caption read, "Baby Scrappy on the way, God is good." The photo showed Amy glowing, her hand resting on her small baby bump with Lil Scrappy standing beside her, his arm around her shoulders. Bambi's chest tightened and she felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. No, 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 no. No, she whispered, her voice shaking. This can't be real. She dropped her phone onto the bed and buried her face in her hands. Her mind raced with thoughts of betrayal, heartbreak, and the countless promises Scrappy had made to her over the years. How could he do this? How could he get someone else pregnant after everything they'd been through? Just then her best friend Kendra burst through the door, carrying a bottle of wine and a bag of takeout. "Girl, I brought reinforcements. We're going to get through this together." She stopped mid-sentence when she saw Bambi's tear-streaked face. "Bambi, what's wrong? What happened?" Bambi couldn't speak. She just handed Kendra her phone, the Instagram post still on the screen. Kendra's eyes widened as she read the caption. "Oh hell no, Scrappy did not get this girl pregnant. Tell me this is some fake news." "Bambi, please, it's not fake." Bambi choked out, her voice breaking. "It's real. He's having a baby with her after everything we've been through. After all the times he swore he was done with the side chicks he's starting a family with." Her Kendra sat down beside Bambi, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "I'm so sorry, Bambi. I know how much you've been trying to make things work with him, but this is next level disrespect. You don't deserve this, Bambi wiped her tears, but they kept coming. I thought we're finally in a good place. We've been going to therapy, trying to rebuild our marriage, and now this. How am I supposed to compete with a baby Kendra? How am I supposed to move past this? Kendra sighed, squeezing Bambi's hand. You don't have to compete with anyone, Bambi. You're his wife. You've stood by him through all the mess. If he can't see your worth, then maybe it's time to let him go. Bambi shook her head, her mind spinning. I don't know if I can, Kendra. I love him. I've always loved him, but this feels like the final straw. Later that night, Bambi sat alone in the living room, the glow of the TV casting shadows across the room. She couldn't focus on the show playing in front of her. Her mind kept drifting back to Scrappy and Amy. She thought about all the times she'd forgiven him, all the times she believed him when he said he was done with the drama, and now there was a baby on the way, a baby that would forever tie him to Amy. The sound of the front door opening snapped her out of her thoughts. Scrappy walked in his usual swagger, slightly subdued. He froze when he saw her sitting there, her face streaked with dried tears. Bambi, he started, his voice cautious. Don't, she interrupted, holding up a hand. Just don't. I saw the post. Scrappy, I know about the baby. Scrappy sighed, running a hand over his face. Bambi, it's not what you think, me and Amy. It's complicated. Bambi laughed bitterly, standing up to face him. You got her pregnant, Scrappy. How is that complicated? It's pretty straightforward to me. Look, I didn't plan for this to happen. Scrappy said, his voice rising. It was a mistake, okay, but now there's a baby involved, and I have to step up. You know how I feel about being a father. Bambi crossed her arms, her eyes narrowing. And what about being a husband? Scrappy, what about us? You keep saying you want to make this work, but how can we move forward when you're out here starting families with other women? Scrappy hesitated, his shoulders slumping. I don't know, Bambi. I don't have all the answers, but I do know that I love you. You're my wife. I don't want to lose you. Bambi shook her head, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. You say that, but your actions tell a different story every time. I think we're moving forward. You do something like this. I can't keep doing this, Scrappy. I can't keep getting hurt. Scrappy reached for her, but she stepped back, avoiding his touch. Bambi, please don't shut me out. We can get through this. We've been through worse, have we? Bambi asked her, voice trembling, because this feels like the worst. This feels like the end. The next day, Bambi decided to confront Amy. She couldn't sit back and let this woman play the happy family with her husband. She showed up at Amy's apartment, her heart pounding in her chest. When Amy opened the door, she looked surprised, but not entirely shocked to see Bambi standing there. Bambi, Amy said, crossing her arms, what are you doing here? We need to talk. Bambi said, her voice steady despite the storm raging inside her. About you, Scrappy, and this baby. Amy sighed, stepping aside to let Bambi in. Look, I know this is messy, but it is what it is, Scrappy, and I have a connection. And now we're having a baby. I'm not trying to hurt you, but I'm not going to apologize for living my life. Bambi clenched her fists, trying to keep her emotions in check. You think this is just about you living your life? You're having a baby with my husband. Amy, my husband. Do you even care about the pain you're causing? Amy shrugged, her tone unapologetic. Scrappy's a grown man. He made his choices. If you're mad at anyone, be mad at him. Bambi stared at her, disbelief written all over her face. You're unbelievable. You think this is some kind of game, but it's not. This is my life, my marriage, and you're tearing it apart. Amy smirked, clearly enjoying the drama. Maybe your marriage wasn't as strong as you thought it was. Bambi had heard enough. She turned on her heel and walked out, her heart heavy, but her mind made up. She couldn't keep fighting for a man who clearly didn't value her or their marriage. That night, Bambi sat down with Scrappy for what she knew would be their final conversation. I can't do this anymore, she said, her voice firm. I've given you chance after chance, but this is too much. I deserve better. Scrappy, I deserve someone who's going to respect me and our marriage. Scrappy looked at her, his eyes filled with regret. Bambi, please don't give up on us. We can fix this. Bambi shook her head, tears streaming down her face. No, Scrappy, we can't. Some things are just broken beyond repair. As she walked away, Bambi felt a mix of heartbreak and relief. She Didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure: she was done with the drama, done with the lies, and done with Lil Scrappy. Even Scrappy's closest friends were terrified that this might be the end of the road for the Atlanta rap legend, but in a shocking turn of events, Scrappy is showing signs of a miraculous recovery that even the top medical experts can't explain. Doctors who had given grim predictions are now in shock. We've never seen anything like this, one of them admitted. Just days ago, Lil Scrappy was clinging to life, his condition rapidly deteriorating as doctors and family members prepared for the worst. According to the hospital, relatives who had been expecting the worst are now in disbelief. Maddie is convinced that this is divine intervention, while Bambi is still processing the emotional roller coaster. After nearly losing him, fans are desperately searching for answers, wanting to know what really happened in that hospital room, what Scrappy said when he finally opened his eyes, and most importantly, whether this is the beginning of his journey back to full health or just a temporary miracle before another devastating turn. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. Just a few days ago, Scrappy was lying motionless in his hospital bed, hooked up to machines, his condition worsening by the hour. Doctors had already warned the family to brace for the worst. The once unstoppable rapper, known for his raw energy and powerful presence, was now fighting for his life, and it didn't seem like he was going to. When Mama D was distraught, she hadn't left the hospital since Scrappy was admitted. She paced the hallways, whispering prayers and placing blame on everyone. Meanwhile, Bambi, Scrappy's estranged wife, had a more complex reaction. She still cared for him, but their tumultuous history made things difficult. Some whispered that she didn't even want to go to the hospital, that she had been pressured by friends and family to be there, but regardless of any past drama, she was still devastated by what was happening. My son is a fighter, and I refuse to believe he won't pull through, Mama D said in frustration. Then the unthinkable happened. It started with the smallest movement, hardly noticeable at first. One of the nurses thought she saw Scrappy's fingers twitch. She dismissed it as a reflex, but then it happened again. This time she wasn't the only one who noticed. Did you see that? One nurse whispered to another before they could even process what was happening. They rushed to his bedside, calling for the doctors. The man they had all but given up on was waking up. Mama D, who had been sitting in the corner of the room with her head in her hands, looked up and gasped. Scrappy. Her voice was barely above a whisper, as if she was afraid to hope. Scrappy's lips parted, but no words came out. At first, his eyes darted around the room, confused. Doctors rushed in, checking his vitals. Can you hear me? Do you know where you are? They asked. Then, before anyone else could say another word, he finally spoke. Mama. His voice was weak but clear. With that one word, Mama D broke down in tears. She ran to his side, gripping his hand tightly, afraid he would slip away again. Oh, baby, you scare me half to death, she cried. Meanwhile, Bambi, who had been standing motionless near the doorway, tears streaming down her face, was left completely speechless. Even Scrappy's closest friends were terrified that this might be the end of the road for the Atlanta rap legend. But in a shocking turn of events, he's showing signs of a miraculous recovery that even top medical experts can't explain. Doctors who once gave grim predictions are now stunned. We've never seen anything like this before, one of them admitted just days ago. Lil Scrappy was barely holding on to life, his condition rapidly declining, while doctors and family members brace for the worst. According to hospital insiders, the entire family had been preparing for the inevitable until something unexplainable happened. Mama D is convinced this is divine intervention, while Bambi is still struggling to process the emotional roller coaster of almost losing him. Fans are desperate for answers. What happened in that hospital room? What were Scrappy's first words when he opened his eyes? And is this the beginning of his road to full recovery, or just a temporary miracle before another devastating turn? Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. A few days ago, Lil Scrappy lay motionless in his hospital bed, connected to machines, his condition worsening by the hour. Doctors had already warned the family to prepare for the worst. The once fiery rapper known for his raw energy and powerful presence was now fighting for his life, and losing Mama D hadn't left the hospital since his admission, pacing the hallways whispering prayers and pointing fingers in desperation. Meanwhile, Bambi Scrappy's estranged wife had a more complicated reaction. Although she still cared for him, their rocky history made things difficult. Some sources claimed she had hesitated to come to the hospital, only showing up after pressure from family and friends. But once there, she was deeply shaken. She was seen breaking down in frustration as she whispered, "I just want him to be okay." Then the unthinkable happened. It started as a tiny, almost imperceptible movement, a flicker of his fingers, and nurse noticed it but dismissed it as a reflex. But then it happened again, and this time she wasn't the only one who saw it. "Did you see that?" one nurse whispered to another. Within moments, the entire medical staff was on alert as nurses rushed to his bedside, calling for doctors. The man they had nearly given up on was waking up in the corner of the room. Mama D, who had been sitting with her head in her hands, suddenly gasped. Scrappy, her voice trembled barely above a whisper, as if she was afraid to believe it. His lips parted, but at first no sound came out. His eyes darted around the room, confused. Lost doctors swarmed him, checking his vitals, asking urgent questions. "Can you hear us? Do you know where you are?" Then, in a weak but clear voice, he finally spoke. Mama. At that moment, Mama Da collapsed into tears, clutching his hand tightly as if terrified he might slip away again. "Oh baby, you scared me half to death," she sobbed across the room. Bambi stood frozen in the doorway, tears streaming down her face. This wasn't supposed to happen. Scrappy's body had been shutting down. The doctors had already prepared for the worst, but now here he was, awake, conscious, and calling for his mother. One of the doctors, Dr. Reynolds, shook his head in disbelief. "This is incredible," he muttered, checking the monitors. He saw stable vitals, something that simply shouldn't have been possible outside the hospital room. News was spreading like wildfire. A nurse, unable to contain her excitement, texted a friend, and within minutes social media exploded. Fans who had been waiting outside the hospital, praying and holding signs, erupted into cheers. "Y'all, Scrappy just woke up. This is a miracle. Prayers worked." One tweet read, "I need an update now. Is he talking? Is he okay? Someone tell us something." Another fan posted. But inside Scrappy's hospital room, things were still fragile. Yes,